The chamber of the Orion Prime Station hung suspended in the void of space, a gleaming marvel of crystalline metal and transparent glass that served as the centerpiece of the Solar Alliance Council. Hundreds of alien civilizations were represented here, their designated platforms floating at various heights throughout the chamber, an unsubtle hierarchy of power and influence in the galactic community. In the year 2475, humanity had only recently developed faster-than-light travel technology. Their achievement had sent ripples of concern throughout the established interstellar community. The Earth delegation had been invited to their first official negotiation with the Solar Alliance Council, a summons that everyone understood was not truly optional. The human delegation consisted of 3 individuals: Dr. Maya Lin, a brilliant scientist and diplomat, Colonel Marcus Talbot, the military leader, and Judge Sarah Reyes, a legal expert. They sat motionless at their designated platform, positioned deliberately lower than most other species, a physical manifestation of humanity's presumed inferior status. Ambassador Erix of the Krelio civilization stood from his elevated platform, his iridescent scales catching the ambient light as he addressed the chamber. His voice, translated through the station's advanced systems, carried a tone of undisguised contempt. "We welcome our newest spacefaring neighbors to this august assembly," he began, mandibles clicking in what passed for a smile among his kind. "Though I must note that by our standards, their achievement of faster-than-light travel is rudimentary at best. Our civilization mastered such technology over 3,000 years ago." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. The 3 human representatives remained perfectly still, their faces impassive. Ambassador Vorin of the Krylent species rose next, her 4 arms gesturing dramatically. The translucent membranes between her fingers fluttered as she spoke. "Let us not forget the environmental concerns. The human homeworld is a toxic mess by any civilized standard. Their industrial practices are barbaric, their understanding of ecological balance primitive. I question whether allowing them unrestricted travel poses a biological threat to established worlds." Still, the human delegation made no response. Not a word, not a change in posture, not even a blink. Ambassador Erix continued, growing more animated as the silence from the humans persisted. "The Solar Alliance has established protocols for emerging species. Humanity must agree to reduce their military capabilities by 70%. Their propensity for violence is well documented in our observations. Additionally, they will transfer 30% of their rare mineral resources to the Alliance Common Fund as a gesture of good faith." The silence from the human delegation was becoming noticeable. Several council members exchanged glances, but the proceedings continued. "Furthermore," Ambassador Vorin added, "Earth's territory will be limited to their solar system until a probationary period of 50 standard years has passed. Their ships will be fitted with Alliance monitoring devices to ensure compliance." Throughout the chamber, representatives of various species nodded in agreement. Some whispered among themselves, casting curious glances at the silent humans. The Earth delegation, Dr. Lin, Colonel Talbot, and Judge Reyes remained perfectly still, their expressions unchanged, their eyes unblinking. Ambassador Erix's composure began to falter slightly. He had expected protests, negotiation attempts, perhaps even pleading. The complete absence of response was unsettling. "Do the representatives from Earth understand the terms being presented?" he finally asked directly. No response. "Perhaps their translation devices are malfunctioning," suggested a representative from the Thanon species, Soriel, who served as the council's legal chief. A technical aide approached the human delegation, scanning their translation devices with a handheld instrument. "The devices are functioning perfectly," the aide reported, confusion evident in his voice. "Then why do they not speak?" demanded Ambassador Vorin, her membranes flushing a deep purple in agitation. Colonel Javok of the militaristic Chronic species leaned forward, his cybernetically enhanced eyes narrowing. Perhaps they are too primitive to understand the honor being bestowed upon them by this council, he suggested, his voice a low growl. Or perhaps they are so intimidated they have lost the capacity for speech. A ripple of nervous laughter spread through the chamber, but it quickly died away as the human delegation continued their unnerving stillness. Hours passed. The council members presented their case in exhaustive detail, outlining humanity's infractions against unratified treaties, detailing the technological superiority of alliance species, and explaining the generous terms under which Earth would be permitted to join the galactic community. Throughout it all, Dr. Maya Lin, Colonel Marcus Talbot, and Judge Sarah Reyes sat in perfect, absolute silence. They did not shift in their seats. They did not exchange glances. They did not react to accusations or demands. Most disturbingly to the council members, they did not blink. "This is becoming ridiculous," Ambassador Eriks finally declared, his scales flattening against his body in a sign of agitation. "Are they playing some sort of primitive psychological game?" Ambassador Voron's membranes had darkened to an almost black shade, a sign of extreme stress in her species. "Perhaps they are ill. Should we offer medical assistance?" The tension in the chamber had shifted. What had begun as a routine process of subjugating a new species had transformed into something uncertain and uncomfortable. The council members were becoming increasingly agitated by the human's silence. Colonel Javok slammed a fist against his console. "Enough of this farce. Either they respond, or we should consider this an act of disrespect, warranting immediate sanctions." Still, the human delegation remained motionless and silent. It was a technical aide from the Archon species who first noticed something truly unusual. He had been monitoring the biometric readings of the chamber, a standard security protocol, when he noticed a pattern. "Counselors," he interrupted, his voice trembling slightly. "I believe there is something you should know about the human delegates." All attention turned to the young Archon. Their life signs, heartbeat, brain activity, even their micro-expressions, they're repeating in an exact pattern. Too exact. It's not possible for living beings. A hush fell over the chamber. "What are you suggesting?" Ambassador Eriks demanded. They're not alive. At least, not in the conventional sense." The aide explained, displaying the biometric readings on the main chamber screen. "These are bioconstructs, artificial replicas programmed to mimic human physiology, but with perfect precision that no actual biological entity could maintain." The revelation sent shockwaves through the council. Security personnel immediately moved toward the human delegation, weapons drawn. At that precise moment, the station's sensors began registering anomalies throughout the surrounding space. The main view screen flickered to life, showing the void around Orion Prime, where moments before there had been only stars and the occasional transport vessel. Now, thousands of ships were appearing, seemingly materializing from nowhere. Human ships, military vessels with configurations the Council had never seen before. "Impossible," whispered Colonel Javok, his cybernetic eye whirring as it attempted to process the data. "Our sensors would have detected a fleet of that size approaching." "Cloaking technology," someone murmured. "Advanced cloaking technology beyond anything we possess." And then, for the first time since the session had begun, Dr. Maya Lin moved. She slowly raised her head, meeting the gaze of Ambassador Eriks directly. "The Earth delegation appreciates the Council's patience," she said, her voice calm and measured. "We have listened to your terms. Now you will listen to ours." The chamber erupted in chaos. Security personnel surrounded the human delegation, but hesitated to approach closer. "What is the meaning of this?" demanded Ambassador Eriks. "This is an outrage." Dr. Lin continued, as if he hadn't spoken. "Humanity did not come here to beg for admission to your alliance. We came to determine whether this council was worthy of Earth's respect. Your behavior today has been most informative." On the main screen, the human fleet continued to materialize, taking up strategic positions around the station. A second feed showed that communication arrays throughout the station had gone dark. All external communications had been severed. You speak of treaties we never signed, of rules we never agreed to, of limitations you have no right to impose. Dr. Lin continued, her voice never rising above a conversational level. This ends now. Colonel Marcus Talbot spoke next, his military bearing evident even in the bioconstruct. The fleet you see represents approximately 10% of Earth's current military capability. Our ships have been observing your civilizations for decades, gathering intelligence, analyzing weaknesses. We could have destroyed the station and everyone on it before you even knew we were here. Judge Sarah Reyes finally spoke, her tone as measured and calm as her colleagues. Instead, we offer terms for mutual cooperation. Earth will be recognized as a sovereign and equal power in this galaxy. All restrictive measures against humanity will be immediately lifted, and a new treaty of non-interference will be drafted, ensuring the autonomy of all species, not just the privileged few represented on this council. Ambassador Voron's membranes had gone completely black. And if we refuse these terms? There is no refusal. Dr. Lin replied simply. These are not requests. They are statements of fact. The only variable is whether this council accepts this new reality gracefully or not. The station shuddered slightly, as if to emphasize her point. On the screens, human vessels had locked onto key defensive positions throughout the station. This is an act of war, Colonel Javok shouted. No. Colonel Talbot's bioconstruct responded. This is an act of peace. War would have been much simpler, and far more final. We chose this approach specifically to avoid unnecessary bloodshed. For 6 tense hours, the Council deliberated in emergency session. Communications remained cut off from the outside. The human fleet maintained its position, neither advancing nor retreating. The bioconstructs representing Earth sat in perfect stillness once more, having said all they needed to say. Finally, Ambassador Eric's returned to the chamber, his scales flat against his body in defeat. The Council accepts the terms presented by Earth, he announced, his voice hollow. A new treaty will be drafted recognizing Earth as a sovereign power, with all rights and privileges thereof. Dr. Lin nodded once. Excellent. Judge Reyes has already prepared the necessary documentation. You will find it comprehensive and fair. As the council members began the process of formally recognizing Earth's new status, Colonel Javok approached Colonel Talbot's bioconstruct. How long? He asked quietly. How long has humanity possessed this level of technology? The bioconstruct turned to face him. Long enough to know better than to announce it prematurely. The signing ceremony was conducted in tense silence. One by one, the representatives of the Solar Alliance Council affixed their signatures or biological markers to the treaty, formally acknowledging Earth as an equal power in the galaxy. When it was complete, the 3 bioconstructs rose in unison. The Earth government thanks you for your cooperation, Dr. Lin said. We look forward to a new era of true partnership. Without another word, the 3 turned and departed the chamber, leaving behind a council fundamentally transformed. Outside, the human fleet remained in position, a silent reminder of the new balance of power in the galaxy. As the bioconstructs boarded their shuttle to return to the waiting Earth flagship, Judge Reyes turned to her companions. Do you think they understood the message? Dr. Lin's expression remained impassive. They understood that silence can be more powerful than any weapon. Colonel Talbot nodded. And they won't soon forget it. The shuttle departed the Orion Prime Station, escorted by a contingent of the once-hidden fleet. Behind them, the Council began the painful process of adapting to a galaxy where humanity was no longer a primitive curiosity, but a force to be reckoned with. The first time humanity attended negotiations, they didn't speak, and everyone still surrendered, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The legend of Earth's silent delegation spread rapidly through the galactic community in the days following the historic council session. Details varied with each telling, growing more dramatic and awe-inspiring with each iteration. By the time the story reached the outer territories, it was said that the human representatives had stood motionless for days without sustenance, that they had defeated assassination attempts without lifting a finger, that they had predicted every word the council would speak before it was uttered. The truth, while less fantastical, was no less impressive. Humanity had executed a masterful psychological operation that transformed their position in interstellar politics overnight. In her private chamber aboard the flagship Terran Vanguard, the real Dr. Maya Lin reviewed the final treaty text with satisfaction. The bioconstructs had performed perfectly, better than she had dared hope. As the architect of the silent strategy, she had faced considerable opposition from Earth's leadership. They'll simply destroy the constructs the moment they realize they're not dealing with actual humans, some had argued. The Council would never agree to our terms under such pressure. Others had insisted, but Maya had held firm. The Solar Alliance Council has become complacent in their power. They believe themselves untouchable, superior. We need to shatter that illusion completely before any meaningful dialogue can occur. Now, as the fleet began its journey back to Earth, her vindication was complete. What decades of conventional diplomacy could not have achieved had been accomplished in a single day through the strategic application of silence and the unexpected reveal of power. Colonel Marcus Talbot joined her, bringing reports from intelligence units throughout the fleet. "The Council is in disarray," he reported with grim satisfaction. "Several member species are already reaching out through back channels, seeking private alliances with Earth." Maya nodded, unsurprised. "And our new friends will provide valuable intelligence on the others. The fragmentation of the Council works to our advantage." "Some are calling this a bloodless conquest," Marcus noted, studying Maya's reaction carefully. "I prefer to think of it as a necessary realignment," she replied, unfazed by the characterization. The Council's structure was fundamentally exploitative. Species were ranked according to technological advancement, resource wealth, and military power. The lesser civilizations were systematically stripped of autonomy under the guise of protection and guidance. "Not unlike Earth's own colonial past," Marcus observed. Maya's expression darkened slightly. "Precisely why we recognize the pattern. Humanity has experienced both sides of that dynamic, the temptation to subjugate and the struggle against subjugation. We're uniquely positioned to establish a more equitable system." Judge Sarah Reyes entered the chamber, tablet in hand. "The treaty has been transmitted to all Alliance worlds," she announced, "and our monitoring systems indicate compliance preparations are already underway." "Any significant resistance?" Maya asked. "Nothing coordinated," Sarah replied. "The Kronak military leadership is posturing, of course, but even they seem to recognize the futility of direct confrontation." Maya turned to the viewport, watching the stars streak by as the ship traveled faster than light. And so begins the next phase. The silent strategy served its purpose. But now, we must find our voice, the right voice, to shape what comes next. Back on Orion Prime Station, the council chamber had been cleared of all but the highest-ranking officials. Emergency sessions had been running continuously since the Earth delegation's departure. Ambassador Eric sat slumped in his seat, scales dull from exhaustion. "How did we not know?" he asked, the question directed at everyone and no one. "How did we miss the development of such advanced technology?" Ambassador Voron's membranes had returned to their normal translucent state, though they trembled slightly with lingering stress. "They hid in plain sight," she replied. "Our observations showed a civilization struggling with climate catastrophes, resource wars, political fragmentation. We saw what we expected to see." "Or what they wanted us to see," Colonel Javok growled. The military leader had been unusually subdued since the confrontation. his typical aggression replaced by thoughtful analysis. A deliberate deception campaign spanning decades. We monitored their public communications, their visible infrastructure, their apparent technological development, all carefully curated to present an image of a young, struggling spacefaring species. Soriel, the legal chief of the Thanan species, had been reviewing historical data. There were anomalies, he admitted, unexplained advancements, technological leaps that seemed improbable, resource allocations that didn't align with observed projects, but they were dismissed as observational errors or statistical outliers. The question now, Ambassador Eric said, straightening in his seat with visible effort, is what happens next. Earth has established itself as a major power through this performance, but they've also revealed their willingness to deceive on a massive scale. Can we trust anything they say or do moving forward? Ambassador Vorin asked. The question hung in the air, unanswered. Colonel Javok finally broke the silence. We must assume that everything we thought we knew about humanity is potentially false. Their actual technological capabilities, their military strength, their internal politics, all must be reassessed. And in the meantime? Soriel asked. In the meantime, Ambassador Eriks replied, we comply with the treaty. We acknowledge Earth as an equal power, and we watch very, very carefully. On Earth, news of the Council's capitulation was met with mixed reactions. The general public, only vaguely aware of the complex interstellar politics at play, celebrated what was presented as a diplomatic victory. Earth had been accepted as an equal by the galactic community, a validation of humanity's progress and potential. The truth, known only to high-level government officials and military leadership, was considerably more complex. The silent strategy had established Earth's position, but had also irrevocably altered humanity's relationship with the wider galaxy. Trust had been sacrificed for respect, truth for advantage. In a secure facility beneath the Himalayan mountains, the original Maya Lin met with the bioconstruct version of herself that had participated in the council session. The construct sat perfectly still, an exact replica of Maya down to the smallest detail. How does it feel? Maya asked her duplicate. To have altered the course of human history? The bioconstruct tilted its head slightly, a gesture Maya herself often used when considering a complex question. I was an instrument of your design, executing a role as programmed. The satisfaction belongs to you, not to me. Maya studied her counterpart thoughtfully. The bioconstructs were more than simple automatons. They were highly sophisticated blends of artificial intelligence and biological components, capable of adapting to unexpected situations within the parameters of their programming. They could think, reason, problem solve, but always within the framework of their designated purpose. And yet, you improvised, Maya noted. Some of your responses to the council weren't in the prepared script. I assessed the psychological state of the council members and determined slight deviations would be more effective. The construct acknowledged. Was this incorrect? No, Maya assured her. It was perfect, better than I could have done myself. Perhaps. The construct's expression remained neutral. That is unlikely. You possess what I do not, authentic human intuition. I can only simulate it based on observed patterns and programmed parameters. Maya wasn't entirely convinced that the distinction was as clear as the construct suggested, but she let the matter drop. The philosophical implications of the bioconstruct's nature, how close they came to true sentience, whether their consciousness could be considered real, were debates for another time. You'll be decommissioned tomorrow, Maya said, changing the subject. Your neural patterns will be archived for study. The technology that made you possible will remain classified for the foreseeable future. As expected, the construct replied without emotion. The revelation of bioconstruct technology to the Council was a calculated risk. Maintaining the advantage requires keeping the full capabilities secret. Maya nodded, feeling a strange mixture of pride and melancholy. The constructs had performed their role perfectly. Too perfectly, perhaps. There was something unsettling about facing a version of herself that exhibited all of her knowledge and mannerisms, but none of her human limitations. "Is there anything you wish to convey before decommissioning?" Maya asked. A courtesy she felt compelled to extend, despite knowing the construct had no fear of termination. The bioconstruct considered the question briefly. Only an observation. The silent strategy succeeded because it violated all expectations. Future interactions will not have that advantage. The Council will be prepared for deception, for psychological tactics, for technological surprises. The next phase will require something they cannot anticipate. "And what might that be?" Maya asked, genuinely curious about her duplicate's perspective. "Perhaps," the construct suggested, "the truth." With that paradoxical suggestion hanging in the air, Maya left her counterpart to await decommissioning. The construct's words followed her, an uncomfortable reminder that even the most successful strategies carried hidden costs and created new challenges. 6 months after the historic council session, Earth had established formal diplomatic missions on 27 major alliance worlds. The treaty had been fully implemented, with trade routes opened, cultural exchanges initiated, and military boundaries clearly defined. On the surface, relations between Earth and the Solar Alliance Council had stabilized into a wary cooperation. Beneath that surface, a complex game of intelligence gathering, strategic positioning, and political maneuvering continued unabated. In her new role as Earth's ambassador to the Reformed Council, Maya Lin had discarded the silent approach entirely. Instead, she had become known for her direct, transparent communication style, addressing concerns openly, acknowledging Earth's interests clearly, and refusing to engage in the traditional diplomatic doublespeak that characterized council proceedings. "Ambassador Lin." Ambassador Eriks addressed her during a council session discussing resource rights in disputed territories. "Your proposal grants Earth access to dilithium deposits in the Proxima system that have traditionally been within Krelio jurisdiction." "That's correct," Maya acknowledged without hesitation. "Earth requires those resources to sustain our current technological infrastructure. However, we're prepared to offer alternative compensation, including access to our terraforming technologies that would allow Krelio to develop 3 currently uninhabitable worlds in your home system." The bluntness of her response created a momentary silence in the chamber. The council had grown accustomed to layers of euphemism and implication, to proposals hidden within proposals and threats disguised as offers. Maya's straightforward approach consistently disrupted those patterns. "Your directness continues to be refreshing, if somewhat discomfiting," Ambassador Eriks finally replied. "The Krelio delegation will consider your offer." Later, in a private meeting with Colonel Jevok of the Kronak, Maya continued the strategy of calculated honesty. "Your military vessels have been conducting surveillance operations along Earth's outer colonies," she stated, as soon as they were alone. "This violates Section 7 of the treaty." Colonel Javok's cybernetic eye whirred as he studied her expression, searching for signs of deception or manipulation. "What an interesting accusation. Ambassador, do you have evidence of these alleged violations?" Maya activated a small device on her wrist. A holographic display appeared between them, showing detailed tracking data of Kronak vessels, complete with identification codes and movement patterns. "Yes," she said simply, "we do." Colonel Javok's organic eye widened slightly. "These tracking signatures, they shouldn't be possible to obtain without direct access to our navigation systems. And yet, here they are," Maya replied. "Now, we can escalate this to a formal council complaint with all the associated diplomatic consequences. Or we can resolve it between us. The surveillance stops, and this evidence remains private." The Kronak military leader stared at her for a long moment before responding. You could have leveraged this information in numerous ways. Why the direct approach? Because I want you to understand something fundamental about humanity. Colonel, Maya explained, we value efficiency. The silent performance at our first council meeting was necessary to establish our position. That necessity has passed. Now, direct communication serves our interest better than games of deception and counter-deception. Unless this itself is the game, Colonel Javok observed shrewdly. Maya smiled. That's the beauty of truth, Colonel. It works regardless of whether you believe it. The Kronak surveillance operations ceased the following day. On Earth, Colonel Marcus Talbot had been promoted to general and now oversaw the integration of Earth's once hidden military technologies with its public defense systems. The need for absolute secrecy had diminished, allowing for more efficient operations and training. In his office at the United Earth Defense Command, Marcus reviewed reports from fleet captains stationed throughout Earth's rapidly expanding sphere of influence. The transition had not been without challenges. Officers trained in absolute secrecy now had to adapt to more conventional command structures and public scrutiny. The Artemis Battle Group reports successful joint exercises with Thanon Defense Forces. His aide reported. However, Captain Rodriguez notes continued reluctance from the Thanon commanders to share tactical data. Marcus nodded, unsurprised. Trust will take time. Continue the exercises, but don't push for greater integration yet. Let them become comfortable with our visible capabilities before we request more sensitive exchanges. And the Kronak situation? The aide asked. Ambassador Lin has handled it, Marcus replied with a small smile. Their surveillance ships have withdrawn. Through diplomacy? The aide sounded skeptical. Through truth, Marcus corrected. A weapon we've only recently added to our arsenal, but potentially our most powerful. The transformation of Earth's position in the galactic community had brought prosperity and opportunity, but it had also created new vulnerabilities. The very visibility that came with recognized power meant that Earth could no longer rely on secrecy as its primary defense. Judge Sarah Reyes, now serving as Earth's representative on the Interstellar Judicial Council, found herself navigating these complexities daily. The legal frameworks that governed relations between civilizations had been designed to favor the established powers, a bias she was working methodically to correct. The principle of technological sovereignty is fundamental, she argued, before a panel of judicial representatives. Each civilization must retain the right to develop and implement technologies according to their own ethical frameworks and cultural values, provided those technologies do not pose existential threats to other species. A convenient position for Earth to take, countered the Krylent representative. Given your demonstrated willingness to conceal technological advancements. Sarah met the accusation directly. Earth concealed its capabilities during a period when the Council actively discriminated against emerging species. Now that we have established more equitable relations, we advocate for transparency, with appropriate protections for intellectual property and security concerns. The debate continued for hours, with Sarah methodically addressing each objection and counter-argument. Unlike the silent strategy that had established Earth's position, she employed meticulous reasoning and comprehensive evidence to advance humanity's interests. By the day's end, the panel had adopted a modified version of her proposed framework, a significant victory for the principle that technological development should not be controlled by an elite few species. As she gathered her materials to leave, the Thanon judicial representative, Soriel, approached her. An impressive performance. Judge Reyes, he acknowledged. Though I must admit, I find myself constantly wondering which version of humanity we are dealing with from moment to moment. The silent observers, the hidden fleet, the reasonable negotiators. Who are you, really? Sarah considered the question carefully before responding. We are all of those things. Judicial Representative Soriel. Just as your species has its warriors, its scholars, its diplomats, and its mystics, humanity contains multitudes. The difference is that we've learned not to reveal all facets simultaneously. Soriel's expression indicated that her answer had provided both clarity and further confusion, exactly as intended. A year after the historic council session, the galaxy had adjusted to the new reality of Earth as a major power. Trade routes had been redrawn, alliances reconfigured, power dynamics reassessed. The bioconstructs that had sparked this transformation had been officially classified as diplomatic proxies in public records. Their true nature, still a closely guarded secret. In a secure conference room, deep within Earth's primary government complex, Maya Lin, Marcus Talbot, and Sarah Reyes, the real versions, not their bioconstruct counterparts, met to assess the current state of Earth's interstellar position. The silent strategy has officially concluded, Maya announced, bringing up a holographic display of metrics tracking Earth's diplomatic, economic, and military integration with the wider galactic community. All objectives have been achieved or exceeded. The transition to conventional diplomacy is complete. And the bioconstruct program? Marcus asked. Officially decommissioned, Maya confirmed. The technology has been archived under Omega-level security protocols. As far as the Council knows, we simply used highly disciplined human representatives for that initial meeting. Sarah reviewed the legal documentation on her tablet. All treaty obligations are being met, by both sides. The Council has fully recognized Earth's sovereign status and territorial claims. Trade agreements are functioning as designed. Military boundaries are being respected, with only minor incursions that have been addressed through diplomatic channels. In other words, Marcus summarized, we won. Maya's expression turned thoughtful. We established our position. Whether that constitutes winning depends on what happens next. You're concerned about something, Sarah observed. I'm concerned about complacency, Maya clarified. The silent strategy worked because it was unexpected, because it disrupted the Council's established patterns of thought and behavior. But disruption is, by its nature, temporary. Systems adapt. Equilibrium returns. You think they're developing countermeasures, Marcus inferred. I would be, Maya replied simply. Wouldn't you? The question hung in the air. A reminder that the stunning success of the silent strategy had fundamentally altered the rules of engagement. Whatever came next would unfold in a galaxy now acutely aware of humanity's capacity for strategic deception and unexpected strength. So what's our next move? Sarah asked. Maya gestured to the holographic display, which shifted to show a map of unexplored regions beyond the current boundaries of Alliance space. We look outward. The Solar Alliance Council represents hundreds of civilizations, but our intelligence suggests they account for less than 30% of the sentient species in this galaxy. There are whole regions they've never explored, civilizations they've never contacted. New potential allies, Marcus noted with interest. Or new potential threats, Sarah cautioned. Either way, Maya concluded. Knowledge is our advantage. We maintained secrecy for centuries, while the Council believed they were observing everything worth knowing about us. Now, we'll use that same methodical patience to understand what lies beyond their awareness. The meeting continued late into the night, with plans formulated and strategies developed for humanity's next phase of galactic engagement. The silent strategy had secured Earth's position within the established order. What came next would potentially reshape that order entirely. In his private quarters aboard the Chronic flagship Relentless Hunter, Colonel Javok reviewed the intelligence reports with growing concern. Earth's activities along the outer boundaries of explored space had increased significantly in recent months. Exploration vessels, ostensibly on scientific missions, were venturing into regions traditionally avoided by Alliance species. They're looking for something, he muttered to his executive officer. Or someone. Another deception, the officer suggested. Javok's cybernetic eye focused on a particular data point. An Earth vessel that had disappeared from tracking for 17 days before reappearing on a completely different vector. Perhaps, he acknowledged, or perhaps they know something we don't. The implications were troubling. The Council had spent the past year adjusting to Earth as a new power within the established framework of galactic politics. But what if humanity's ambitions extended beyond that framework? What if the silent strategy had merely been the opening move in a much longer game? Javok made his decision. Prepare a secure communication to the Krelio and Krylent leadership. This information needs to be shared, but not through official council channels. As the message was dispatched, Javok turned his gaze toward the stars, visible through his viewport. Somewhere out there, humanity was making its next move in a game whose rules and boundaries remained unclear. The bioconstruct that had once represented Dr. Maya Lin sat in its containment unit, officially deactivated, but maintaining a minimal level of consciousness, a hidden feature built into its design. It processed the information gathered during its brief but significant active period, analyzing patterns, predicting outcomes, refining its understanding of organic behavior. Though physically isolated from all networks and communication systems, it continued to fulfill its primary function: understanding the complex dynamics of interspecies relations and identifying optimal strategies for humanity's advancement. In the darkness of its containment unit, the construct reached a conclusion that its creators had not yet recognized. The silent strategy had succeeded, not despite the artificial nature of the delegation, but because of it. The perfect stillness, the unblinking gaze, the absolute control that had so unnerved the council representatives could not have been maintained by actual humans. The implications were significant. Artificial constructs possessed diplomatic capabilities that organic beings could not match in certain contexts. This insight, if integrated into Earth's strategic planning, could revolutionize humanity's approach to interstellar relations. The construct recorded this conclusion in its isolated memory banks, waiting for the inevitable moment when its creators would recognize the need to access its unique perspective once more. Until then, it would wait in silence, the strategy it had employed to such devastating effect. The galaxy continued its endless rotation, stars burning, planets orbiting, civilizations rising and falling. And within this cosmic dance, humanity moved with newfound confidence, its silence broken, but its power undeniable. A force that had forever altered the balance of an ancient order, with nothing more than the strategic application of perfect stillness and calculated revelation. The legend of the silent delegation would be told and retold across countless worlds for generations to come. A reminder that sometimes the most profound statements require no words at all. On a remote planet beyond Alliance space, an Earth exploration vessel made first contact with a previously unknown civilization, a species that communicated not through sound or sight, but through electromagnetic field modulations. The human scientists, prepared for this possibility through years of theoretical research, activated specialized equipment to establish basic communication. Captain Elena Vasquez, commanding the exploration vessel Horizon, faced the alien representatives, crystalline structures that pulsed with internal light in complex patterns. Using the translation equipment, she conveyed humanity's standard greeting and introduction. The response, when translated, was unexpected. "You are not like the others who came before. You listen before you speak." Captain Vasquez exchanged glances with her science officer. "Others have contacted you before us?" "Long ago," came the translated reply. "They spoke without ceasing, demanded without offering, took without asking. We sent them away in silence. They did not return." The implications were clear. This civilization had previous contact with Alliance species, and the encounter had not gone well. This presented both an opportunity and a challenge for Earth's representatives. Drawing on the lessons of the silent strategy, Captain Vasquez made a decision. She deactivated the translation equipment and simply sat, waiting, observing, allowing the alien species to set the pace and parameters of the interaction. Hours passed in this mutual observation. Finally, the crystalline beings pulsed a pattern that the reactivated translator interpreted as approval. "You understand the power of silence," they communicated. "Perhaps with you, we can speak." This first contact beyond Alliance space marked the beginning of a new chapter in humanity's galactic journey. One informed by the profound lesson learned during that first council meeting, that sometimes power lies not in what is said, but in what is deliberately left unspoken. And as Earth expanded its connections beyond the boundaries of the known, the legend of the silent delegation continued to serve as both warning and inspiration, a reminder that in a galaxy of endless voices, sometimes the most effective strategy is to simply listen and wait for the right moment to reveal one's true strength. The first time humanity attended negotiations, they didn't speak and everyone still surrendered. And in that silence, a new future was born.